All right, let's get into it.
What if all these fires happening around the U.S. aren't just a coincidence? Yeah, these aren't regular fires, if there are such a thing. These are major fires happening daily. Just tonight, this one in Manhattan, another one, major fire in New Jersey. California's wildfires are starting earlier this year. And another one, also today in Massachusetts. These are all major fires. Not to mention, just a couple days ago, at a Florida university, the Marine Science Lab completely burnt down. Over 200 firefighters were sent to that scene. Look, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is a coincidence. But since when did these huge, major fires happen every single day? In some cases, more than one a day, like the Manhattan one and the New Jersey one tonight. I don't know. Ever since a little more than a month ago, they mentioned possible sleeper cells here in the U.S. All of this stuff, when you get one after another, seems suspicious to me.
It does seem kind of suspicious, especially when you have wildfires really close to data center zone projects like the one in Arizona. It does make you wonder what's going on exactly if this is not natural. Could they be doing discrete land clearing to possibly build more data centers, or to just simply evacuate people so that they can do things on that land? And I know that typical wildfire seasons do start around April to May, and the peak seasons are around August if I'm not mistaken. So this is not uncommon, and you can check the Western Fire Chiefs Association website and look at the fire map and just see where all the wildfires are, and it's pretty active.
Okay, so the plot thickens, right? So apparently in 2008, this Max Logan kid said, and this is the test actually was done, but he said the Large Hadron Collider or the Particle Accelerator or whatever in Europe did a test. And what that test did was a catastrophic event that pushed us into a parallel universe. Which brings me to and we're talking about the 1 minute is now 45 seconds, right? So, which brings me to the next part, the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect, as you know, is like, we remember things from the past and they're different now. So I remember a mirror, mirror on the wall. Now it's magic mirror on the wall. I remember the Bernstein Bears. Now it's the Barnstein Bears. I remember the Kit Kat having a dash in it because my grandmother bought me a Kit Kat every Sunday of my life when we went to Sunday roast. I remember the Walt Disney intro on Sundays when I'd go for the roast, and the little pixie would dot the I. And now it doesn't, and apparently it never did. So these are all things that are different. Now guess when the first episode of the Mandela effect was? You can't make this up. 2009. I mean, is that a coincidence or what?
I have pretty much heard of all of these Mandela effects except one, and I may have heard of it before, but I do not remember. And that's the mirror, mirror on the wall. That's what they say. Never mind, that is not what they say. Now, according to the internet, take that for what you will, since 1937, it's always been magic mirror on the wall. But there is a mirror, mirror on the wall that's from the original 1812 Brothers Grimm fairy tale. So maybe somewhere down the line, people were referencing that. I've never read the book, but I'm sure plenty of people have, and it probably just got referenced so many times that that's what people thought it was. Either that or it's because the book is so old that our ancestors read it so much that it's just ingrained in our DNA and we know what's right. Either that or we're being gaslit. Let me know your thoughts and theories on this one. Hey, if you haven't done so already and if you're enjoying the show, give it a like. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. I upload a video like this 2 times a day, Monday through Saturday, early in the morning and later in the afternoon. At the moment, I am doing midnight releases as well, just as a test run, so if you want to check that out, you're more than welcome. And for everyone that's made it this far, thank you so much for supporting the channel.
Jack Parsons, the self-taught chemist, thelemic occultist, and founder of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory of NASA. Born Marvel Whiteside Parsons in 1914 in California, he was just 14 years old when he began looking into the occult and performed a ritual to summon the devil. It was also at this time that he began experimenting with amateur rocket experiments. When he was 20 years old, he attended lecture at Caltech University and approached the professor asking for work because he wanted to work in rocketry. Despite having no formal training, he was in. And the experiment that is credited as the foundational experiment for the JPL at NASA was conducted on October 31st, Halloween in 1936 of all days. During the rocket tests, which he probably thought were rituals or probably enacted as rituals, he would recite Crowley's poem, A Hymn to Pan. So are the foundations of NASA accredited to science or magic, or both? Just 3 years later, in 1939, he joined the Ordo Templi Orientis, founded by Crowley, as well as the Thelemic Church. 2 years into his involvement into the OTO, he took on this magical motto, which translates to the establishment of Thelema through the rituals of love. It should be noted that in Latin, if you take the first letter of each word, it spells out to Pan, which would make him Frater to Pan. In 1942, he became the OTO branch leader within California. It was at this time that they moved into a house on Millionaires Row in California and essentially formed a commune with other Thelemic worshippers. During this time, they would live very hedonistically, throwing parties and having rituals that would draw the attention of neighbors and as well as the police. However, Jack would mention his ties to the government in his work at Caltech, and because he had a house on Millionaires Row, they would leave him alone. Then comes the involvement of Scientologist L. Ron Hubbard. It should be noted, and I put it below, that the Church of Scientology released a statement that Hubbard had been sent as an undercover agent by the US Navy to destroy Parsons' black magic cult. Whether he was an earnest friend of Parsons or a spy is up to you. Regardless, he inserted himself into Parsons' life, as well as the Thelemic community. Here's his house on Millionaires Row. This is also where the beginnings of the Babylonian workings take place. Jack, as a true student of the occult, listed all of his workings in the manner dictated by Aleister Crowley in Liber 9. L. Ron Hubbard acted as the scribe for these rituals, and this is widely referred to as the Babylonian working, with the goal of bringing the force of Babylon into physical reality. Through this, Parsons pleasured himself onto Enochian tablets. He believed this to be a success and noted several weird occurrences throughout the house, as well as effects on the weather, which you can look up for yourself. And then they did it again. The second Babylonian working took place in February of 1946, and Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard went out into the middle of the desert where magical power lines crossed, and this took place in the Mojave Desert. They conducted the ritual again, and then upon returning back to their home on Millionaires Row, they encountered a woman, the Scarlet Woman, and this is Marjorie Cameron. And spoilers for Severance, if you watch that show on Apple TV. Upon looking her up, she might have been the inspiration behind the main character for Severance, Helly R. In which case, I wonder what Helly R will be birthing in the next season of Severance, if birthing anything. However, things took a sour turn for Parsons. This is why I believe he had his FBI clearance revoked. Through this document, you can see that he released and gave, or at least attempted to give away, several documents of the American jet propulsion motors and rocket propellants without authority to Israel as means of finding employment. And it makes sense why a government wouldn't like this. I mean, why would a government want their former rocketeer to go work for another country? Which then leads us to his death. Parsons fled to Mexico, and he was hoping that he would be invited to Israel to live there and find peace. But in the meantime, he found employment at an explosives factory in Mexico. And at this time, he was convinced that the FBI was watching him. I'm really not shocked. Just one day before he planned to leave Mexico, Parsons received a rush order of explosives for a film set. He began working on it at home when it exploded and killed him. Did a man who worked on explosives his entire life die by accident, or was he set up?
And when you hear things like this, which I'm familiar with the story at this point, it makes you wonder, is NASA still a part of that ritual? Is there some ritual to possibly help gain a certain power? By gaining viewership or people's belief in something, does it fuel this other entity or ambition of some sort that's not necessarily what they're telling us? And I know some people would look at you like you're crazy for thinking something like that, but to me, why wouldn't you think something like that, especially with such a documented background? Let me know your thoughts and opinions.
I'm not saying this is a hellhound, but I'm definitely not saying it's not. If this is a good boy, I sure don't want to see a bad one. If you're like me, you thought that hellhounds was something fictional, only on TV and in movies, like in Supernatural. However, more and more people are coming forward, and some have evidence, like the video I'm getting ready to show you, which claim that these things are real. As you'll see in just a minute, I'm going to roll the video. It's a home security camera. There appears to be a dog walking the yard, which that happens to most homes on a daily basis. I need you to watch all the way to the end because you need to see what happens. Something's weird. Something's off. I don't think this is a dog. Tell me what you think in the comments.
I'm not saying that this is just a dog peeing on a bush and then walking off in the distance, but I'm definitely not saying it's not.
So yesterday was May Day, the founding date of the Bavarian Illuminati. But what do you really know about the Bavarian Illuminati? And did you know they still continue this day, just under a different name? So first, let's get into that date, and then we'll talk about how they are actually still here under your nose right now, and you can't even see them. So let's watch how weird this is. 1776, we had the founding of the Bavarian Illuminati. But the same exact year, 1776, we had the founding of the government of America. They both were 1776. Of course, you know we're heading to this 250th year celebration, which is a lot bigger than you actually think it is. People are still waking up to this, but many don't know. 1776 was the start of our civilization. And all these Tartarian type buildings and all this stuff that we could never build today, that's when we started finding all this stuff because something massive happened in 1776. But this video is not about that. Neither is it about the orphan trains that supplied America its youth when everything was completely empty. So we had the Bavarian Illuminati, founded by Adam Weishaupt, who was actually a member of the Society of Jesus, which by the way has nothing to do with Jesus at all. It's a very fine inversion. By the way, the Society of Jesus also had a strong pull in the Civil War in the United States and a whole bunch of other conflicts. So the story goes that the Bavarian Illuminati's male was traveling with a horseman, and that horseman was struck by lightning and took him out, and he found the letter and found the plans for world domination. Then the Russian Tsar leader found out of this world plan to take over everything with enlightenment, and then he disbanded the Bavarian Illuminati. But the story does not stop there. And then we have this family, the Redshields. You might know their counterpart today. And what they did was they rebranded the Bavarian Illuminati, and they rebranded it under Scottish, which is completely different than the original. I mean, basically what it is, if you want to just go ahead and knock out every bird with every stone, it's the ancient mystery schools. It's all occultism packed in one. It's all these different deities to find the last deity at the 33rd degree. Eastern mysticism and all the original secrets in the First Order. Now, what's funny about all of this is the Red Shield was also, it's the one disputed royal bloodline, and they're also part of the Society of Jesus. You starting to see the picture? You know, all roads lead to Rome, literally. Long story short, this secret society never left, but it transformed into a different one, mixed with old ones, and also all these brotherhoods and fraternities in these colleges is all one giant cult. If you want a way more in detail version of the video, maybe I'll make it on YT. Let me know. Here's a little bonus for you. Albert Pike wrote in his book Morals and Dogma, Revered 33rd Degree, that Masonry is an inner brotherhood concealed by an outer brotherhood who does good things and they raise money for charitable causes, stuff like that. The saying goes, whether it's Society of Jesus or the other thing we talked about, it's always the 1% at the top of that pyramid.
This is such a cool find. This is Venice from 1525. That's 500 years old. Think about that. And it's completely changed now compared to what it was. But check how it had all the walls and like castles in the water, you know, the castle walls in the water, and then you go into it. You can only get to it by ship then. Now they have a bridge out to it. If you zoom in, every area has one of these towers. And then check out this. That was super cool too. I don't know what that is, but it's not there anymore. I couldn't find it. Or maybe it is, if somebody knows. Just found it really neat and interesting how they depicted Venice back then. And then check this out. So I'm going to zoom all the way out so you can see Venice. You can see where north is there. So we can kind of depict where north is. And then I went ahead and got present day. And now we have present day. And north would have been kind of like right there. Would have been north, kind of the same way. I have it in 2D. Let's go make the 3D. And if I'm looking at north right now, kind of depict the same way. It would have been kind of like that. As you can see, Venice is a lot different now and a lot bigger, but look how much water is there now. Let's bring it back down to 2D. Look at this. Like there's so much more water than before. And obviously Venice is a lot bigger now too. It's still gorgeous. And there's still some beautiful places in Venice that you can go visit and see. A lot of red there. And there's the bridge right there. But check that out compared to what it is back then. Such a neat historical map, and has some really significance to show the differences of what was built then and what is built now, and how much bigger it is and how much more water's along the edges too, right?
May 4th brought us poisonous black rain, a hantavirus breakout, and the creation of new exotic forms of matter that shouldn't exist. So welcome to Yester Strange, the daily series where I show you the strangest news from yesterday. So yesterday, May 4th, Russian citizens of the city Tuapse woke up to a plume of black acrid smoke that have also caused oily droplets of black rain to fall on residents and contaminated more than 30 miles of coastline as an oil slick spread. These were due to Ukrainian drone strikes, which also damaged and caused fires last week at a refinery and oil pumping station in Perm near the Urals. This demonstrates Ukraine's increasing reach, thousands of kilometers into Russian territory, and their growing ability to evade Russian air defenses. Quote, Tuapse residents have rallied against the government's efforts to play down the impact of the strikes, which have received scant coverage in Russian federal media. They have complained of an inadequate response by the authorities, a growing sense of abandonment, and exhaustion. Environmentalists said the local government should have ordered a full evacuation of Tuapse to protect citizens from the toxic effects of the raging fires, which they say are releasing carcinogenic compounds into the air, including benzene, which can cause leukemia. Instead, following the third attack, officials ordered only the residents living on several streets closest to the refinery to evacuate to a nearby school for fear the fires could spread to their homes. So overall, it seems like the Russian people are dealing with a lot of the same things that we as Americans are dealing with, which is just seemingly complete incompetence from the government, and also pretty much zero transparency when it comes to the things that our government and our leaders are supposedly doing for our best interest. But that leads us into the next story, which takes us to a cruise ship that right now is currently being quarantined off the coast of South Africa and is not being allowed to dock. Everyone is being quarantined to stay on this ship until they figure out what's going on and take care of it. So, a suspected hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship has currently unalived 3 people and sickened many, many others. According to the World Health Organization, hantavirus infections are typically linked to environmental exposure to infected rodents, urine, or feces. While rare, hantavirus may spread between people and can lead to severe respiratory illness and requires careful patient monitoring, support, and response. So the outbreak happened on the MV Hondius cruise ship, which is a very small, it's not a Carnival, one of these big Disney cruise ships when you think of a cruise ship, and it's more of a smaller boutique style cruise ship. And it was sailing actually from Argentina to Cape Verde, which is off the coast of West Africa. And if this hantavirus sounds familiar, it was actually what caused the unalivings of actor Gene Hackman and his wife in Mexico last year. So overall, this is a serious situation, but we just have to wait for the news and for the story to further unravel to truly figure out how this story is going to end. Are they going to be allowed to dock in South Africa? Does the cruise ship in there, or do they deal with the problem and continue the cruise? I'm not sure. I don't think I would want to continue a cruise after that, even if the problem was solved. But now let's get into our last and final story of the day, which brings us to the California Polytechnic State University, where scientists just created exotic new forms of matter that, quote, shouldn't exist. So, quote, a new quantum physics study reveals that simply changing a magnetic field over time could unlock entirely new forms of matter that don't exist under normal circumstances. And according to one of the authors of this study, Ian Emmanuel Powell, on a bigger picture level, I would describe this as an advance in our understanding of how time-dependent control can create and organize new forms of quantum matter. So, this could prove to be a pivotal moment in our understanding of quantum mechanics, and could be one of the first steps in a long journey of discovery when it comes to quantum physics and mechanics. And that about wraps up May 4th's Yester Strange Report. If you enjoyed it and enjoy other general conspiracy theory content, go ahead, give me a follow.
Man, a lot of bad stuff went down on May 4th, and the fires that are released in those compounds, that's really deadly. They need to evacuate everyone from that location. Also kind of makes you wonder of what's going on in America as well. But let me know what you think of the news.
Entertainment purposes only, but let's talk about pink Himalayan salt for just a second. So we've all heard the theory that that's not actual salt, that is actually petrified giant flesh, as in giants from early biblical times, okay? Just like Devil's Tower and some of these other mountains that we see aren't really mountains. They're actually petrified trees that used to reach the heavens, and petrified giants that died whenever God flooded the earth. Hear me out on this. So if the Bible says it will be in the end times like it was in the days of Noah, what if us eating that pink Himalayan salt was the same as, I'm not going to say mating with them, because obviously that's not the same thing, but we would still be ingesting their flesh? Could us using that pink Himalayan salt somehow change us or leave deposits of something in us, physically as well as spiritually? Do you get what I'm saying here? I think there's more repercussions than what people think. It's not just that simple, and everything is that deep, and I don't think this is quite far a reach. I mean, what if? What if that was the case? What if when you ate that pink Himalayan salt, which I remember when that came out in the stores, okay? I'm like almost 45 years old. I remember when that came out and that was a big thing. What if that was part of their plan, was for us to be really big on this pink Himalayan salt because it's so much better for you, when really it was just part of their plan to get more of that inside of us? What do you think?
I really hope you're a passenger in that vehicle, because I think making content while driving should be illegal or a highly bannable offense. That is so dangerous. But to the topic, not a bad theory. I have heard of this theory before of pink Himalayan salt being the flesh of giants. It's an interesting theory and a tasty one. I'm personally more into the Celtic salt instead. Ever since I learned about that stuff, it's been my go-to salt. But let me know what you guys think of this one.
Y'all want to see how much time I spend outside touching grass? Let me show you. The squirrels have come out. They're so fat. Y'all are fat. Taking all the bird seed. I mean, look, see. I can get up and they just stick around because they're fat and they know who feeds them. Ain't that right? That's right. Because you're fat. You, that one. He's the fat one. I'm watching you. Watching you, Mr. Squirrel. What was that? What? What was that? Oh, you don't want to say it now, huh? Okay. But anyways, thank you everybody for stopping by. Sure do appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe. Remember, Jesus loves you. Go outside. Touch grass. Talk to that one. Yeah, that one. There he is. Y'all have a wonderful day.
It looks like those squirrels are about ready for a good stew. A good squirrel stew. If you eat squirrel. In my neck of the woods, it's a thing. Nah, I haven't eaten a squirrel in a long time. But those are some chubby squirrels. Where I live, we have quite a bit of squirrels, and some of them are quite chunky, but the majority of them are very, very old. And I mean, they're old looking. They have no cares at all either. You could basically approach them and pat them on the head if you wanted to. Man, now you got me wanting to go outside. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I think it's time to touch some grass. Alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end today's video. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching these clips with me. If today's your birthday, happy birthday, and if not, have a good day anyways.